this idea actually, this is a presentation I did last year, and I've updated it and add some stuff to it. This idea came from um, I'm currently enrolled in a superintendent graduate program, EDS program, um, where we're forced to read a lot of stuff. So a lot of stuff you don't really want to read, but we are able to. Some of the stuff does apply, and some of the stuff does work. And when we're reading this is based on Costa's um, three levels of thinking, right? It's how you process things, how you're. It's like we're not going to get deep into the science of it, um, but this is how humans process and think, and process information that's coming in to them. Um, and I think it's a really good topic for you to see, for umpires to see um, kind of where they're at, and it really is for how you develop and how you move up as well. And you'll see there's three levels to it, and then you can kind of build on those levels, and the levels you're using all three all the time for the most part. Well, you are using all three, not for the most part, but in umpiring, we can see the newer you are to a situation, the more you spend on the lower levels of the scale of his three levels of thinking, and the the harder the higher level stuff is. So experience the stuff you experience, and just going through and like making the simpler and more um, lower level thinking um, topics come to you, and the more you can get those to be second nature and not so where you don't have to work so hard at it, the better you'll be at the harder stuff that we get hammered with. It makes umpiring hard, right? So coming in, like, I think this really explains um, why it's hard, right? Why is it hard to you know call where the ball comes over the home plate, right? Why is it why is it hard to get a safer out call right at first base, right? It's simple, like who got there first. It should be easy, right? And you take out all the other factors that are going on during the game, it probably it is pretty easy, right? It's just what you see and relaying what you saw. But there's a lot of things that cloud that um, as you go. So we'll get into this. I do have some. It depends how long this takes. I do have some plays that we can show as well. But the presentation is in the chat. I know some. I see some of you got there already. You can follow along or reference it for yourself if you're on your phone or something. You can pull it up. So Costa's three levels of thinking applied to baseball umpiring. Okay, it's using a structured thinking to improve calls, mechanics, and game management. The hardest part of umpiring is the game management side. So some of this stuff you can use to help with that. Um, it's good for umpire training, evaluations, even crew discussions. How you explain things and how you talk to your crew members. How you structure a um, structure a conversation with your crew. And sometimes if you're by yourself, it's how you can talk to yourself through that situation. So, or even when you're on the bases or behind the plate, you can kind of talk yourself through a situation, even if you're not talking to somebody else. Um, Umpires make dozens of judgment calls per game. Um, and so these decisions, some of them are quick, some of them are take a little bit of more brain power, and some of them take applying complex things to a harder situation. So good umpires know the rules. Great umpires know why and when the rules apply. Um, I would say even how the rules apply. Um, it kind of gives a shared language, or kind of gives you a way to break down what's happening during the game. It's hard sometimes it's hard to explain what you saw or what you felt or just what happened, right? This kind of some of the stuff will help you discuss that with your with your crewmates or somebody you see later on. You're trying to discuss the situation. This would be a good way to do that. So the three levels. Level one is gathering. So this is where you're gathering information. There's not a lot of processing. It's a pitch over the plate, safe outs, simple stuff that you gather information, give a quick answer. Okay. Processing, um, it's where you have to read the situation and give a ruling or react to it. And then applying, um, it's just higher level stuff. So using the knowledge you have to even more complex situations during the game. So level one, gathering, it's to reacting to what's happening in the moment. These are the bang bang plays, even not even the bang bang, just the basic things where there's not a lot of I got to think about it. I just need to react. Okay, what's going on? Did a runner beat the play at first? Is he out? Is he safe? And then communicating that. It's the basics of the game. There's less thinking about strategy or context. That's more about executing a role a straightforward way. Okay, simple call, whether pitch is a ball or a strike. Just kind of funny because sometimes it's not simple, right? So this is one that is obviously ball, obvious a strike. You don't have to process as much, right? Nobody's yelling at you. Everybody's happy still. It's still early in the game. Um, an outer safe call where there's not a question if they're outer safe. Because more in the level one, the bang bang plays sometimes it takes a little bit more, right? And you're going to use your timing and process those kind of things, where it might bump into level two a little bit. But these are the no brainer calls. So some examples is during the play or immediately after. Was the runner safe or out? Did the pitch pass through a strike zone? Where's the ball, runner, or fielder at the moment of the tag? So tag up situations, timing plays. What does the rulebook say about the situation? Basic things where basic rules that most people know, or are easier to comprehend, but are still a rule, right? Like the timing play or force play slide rule, the things you see and you can do. So making a call, making the signal, answering coach basic rules question, right? Like hands part of the bat, right? It's a simple question, right? You can handle that one easily. Um, and confirming what actually happened. So what you saw, and just confirming and communicating that to the world. There's no opinions on this. It's just facts. You see the situation, you're communicating to the world what happened, without any emotion or um, anything that you have to interpret, right? It's just that the information's there, you're communicating out. Level two is processing. Why did it happen, right? Umpire begins to think more strategically. They're anticipating the play that's going to happen, reading situations, factoring game context, right? You have a runner on first. He's he's a leadoff hitter. He just walked. He's on first base. Putting yourself in a position to be ready for the steal second base, right? Maybe it's cheating a little bit towards there, or getting to a spot where you can see the angle. The left-handed pitcher has a good move, but it's close to being a balk. Are you in a spot where you're watching, where you can see if he's making the ground to first base, or there's going to be a pickoff play? You steal the sign from the catcher, or you've been hearing the same coach call the same pickoff play for 15 years. You know it's going to happen, right? Cheating and getting in a spot so you can get a better angle to play first base. It's some of the game in some game management too. You're thinking about how you're going to handle a situation, just like things that you do to flow of the game, right? How to maintain control. Let's try to take an example. You have there's sometimes you'll get an interaction between the batter strikes out and the catcher makes a smart ass comment or something, or makes some kind of comment, and the batter doesn't like it. And there's a small exchange, right? Nothing worth ejecting or really like overly handling, but it's something you should say, like, "Hey, knock it off. Hey, stop that." You catch ball the way catcher goes. Hey, don't be doing that stuff, right? You simple things like that that are small and you don't see, um, that can become bigger things later. Early in my career, um, I had I think it was a it was a Monday game before the regional started. It was before I worked playoff games. I was a young official. I was at Wabansie Valley. The year they had who was their big they had a pitcher that got drafted. He played for the Cubs at one point. Blanking on his name right now. Got drafted by Boston, played in the minor leagues for a while, played for the Cubs for a while. And their catcher was really good that year too, right? But he was a hothead. So we have a play where it all happened in one at bat. I think I want to say they're playing Manuka. It was just a warm up game because both teams had were a one, the top seed in their regional. They don't play till Thursday, so they want to, there's a new pitcher every inning. There wasn't really a lot going on, but the game was close and then got heated a little bit. Want to say the batter swung and missed, and then like brought his bat back and hit the dirt, and it hit the catcher, right? Dirt hit, went up in the catcher. I don't think it got in his face, but just was enough to make him mad, right? Um, I was too young. I didn't know I should do anything, right? Just like, hey, just kind of try to keep him calm. Hadn't worked a lot of varsity games at that point, so I'm trying to just make it along. Catcher didn't like it. Says something to the batter. Batter says something back. Um, Batter swings and misses at the next pitch for strike three and drops his bat in a home plate, right? That situation, like, why would he do that, right? He's trying to be an asshole. But what should I do in that? What should I do in that situation to make sure nothing else happens, right? For me, that it's probably get in between them, right? Make more space, make sure that there's nothing going to happen. There's anything that's happening is happening over me. Any yelling, I can stop it, right? I didn't do anything. The catcher picked up the bat and threw it at the batter and hit him in the back. Okay. So now in the sixth inning of a meaningless game, the catcher for one of the best catchers in the state at that time is ejected and has to sit out his first regional game. Right. I was too young. I didn't know how to read that situation, what to do. Right. And it ended up blowing up. Right. And then my partner was even newer than I was. And now I have two coaches yelling at me. I have the assistant coach and the head coach from Wabansie Valley just yelling at me in my face. There's nothing I can do. My partner's standing out there, counting the dandelions in the outfield, and have nothing. I'm helpless, right? I don't know what to do. I'm not confident enough to be able to handle that situation. Now it would be completely different. Even if it got to that point where I have two coaches on me, wait, I'm gonna talk to my partner before the game that, hey, if two guys are on us, get one away, right? It's simple process, but I didn't have that when I was that that age and that that part of I mean not the age, but I was I was probably only 21 maybe at the most at the time. But that's where you can anticipate that situation and you can do something to prevent that. So preventive umpiring, but just being aware, right? So when we're new, we get caught up in just the simple stuff, and then when you get to the higher level stuff, you're too much of your brain power is going on the simple stuff to be able to handle some of the stuff. And all of us will be different, but it's real, right? And that's why the experience helps you. This experience is not going to make you a good umpire, but it's going to give you the um, experiences to be a good umpire, right? The potential to be a good umpire. Another one is how do you handle teams that are slow coming out of the dugout, right? We want to keep the games moving early in the seasons. It's cold and nobody wants to move. Even later in the year, guys are messing in the dugout, aren't moving, and it's slow, right? So how do you, as an official, it talks about the flow of the game. How do I get this team to go faster, right? Simple things like, hey, we got to go, right? Yep, saying something to the dugout, right? But what can that do, right? It can make them mad, right? There's, part of, I think, level 2 and level 3 thinking and processing is knowing how to talk, how to speak, what tone to use, right? Anytime you act annoyed or you act mad or angry at a situation on the field, you're going to bring that reaction from the other team. So simple as like, it's like, come on, man, like, hey, let's go, hey, let's get moving, got to keep, run out of daylight, simple things like that keeps the game. You still have to, you can't ignore things, right? So I've seen umpires that they struggle with how to do that, so they just ignore it, right? And then things get out. They ignore situations they don't know how to handle, and it gets out of hand. Then I've seen guys that they want to address it, but they don't know what tone to use, and they're too aggressive, and they address it, and then it causes problems for them, right? I think probably a big one for us is coaches out of the dugout while the ball's live. Defensive coaches that are standing in front of the dugout, sitting on buckets, just not where they're supposed to be. Right. Every year you watch the PowerPoint from the state. It talks about being in the dugout. Every year you get coaches outside the dugout, right? And guys are uncomfortable handling that situation, right? Or they're not uncomfortable doing it, but they do it and then but they don't do it correctly. They don't do it where there's ways to do it. The delivery matters, right? If you address it or I think I've seen guys where they ignore it at first, and then it's like at some point you got to address it. And then it's the second or third inning, like then they're like, why didn't you say something at the beginning, or why were other like there's a lot of truth to that stuff, right? I think a lot of times when it's April and I say something to the coach about being in the dugout, and you're the first guy to do that all year, and sometimes like a lot of times that's just BS and it's a throwaway line, right, from the coach, but sometimes it's true, right? Where coaches are just out of the dugout. I had one last year where a coach, it's like the third string assistant coach, right? He's you know there's zero. He's not even a first base. He's not even a coach of base. He's just getting a suntan, right? Outside the dugout, and the dugout there. Sometimes the dugouts are tiny, and we got to make adjustments. But this one is a huge dugout, and it's right away in the first thing. I get before we start the first pitch. I go, hey, got to be in the dugout, and he's like, well, what the heck? I said, rule says you got to be in the dugout and go, and that's it, right? The coach came to me. The coach It was for a team that their home field is tight, and we usually let them kind of stand in entrances. And he goes, "Well, I thought the coaches could be outside the dugout." I was like, "No, we let you do that at home because the dugouts are tight, but he needs to be in there." Like, and I said to that coach, I have a report with him. I said, "He's just out there getting a suntan anyway. Why does he need to be out there?" And we moved on. He was in the dugout the rest of the time. But if you stop the game, go, "Hey, get in the dugout," right? It's not going to go over well, right? There's ways to do it. There's nuance to it. There's times to turn up like you ask him to the dugout, you do it perfectly the first time. In the third inning, he's, the second inning, he's out there, you got to address it again. Third inning, he's out there, you got to address it again. Sometimes there's a tone, right? Hey, not get in the dugout, right? And just, let him know you're in charge, right? You got to be not, it's being kind and cordial and will get you a lot farther away than being a red ass. But if you guys heard me last year, if you heard me before, there's times for being a red ass, right? But you gotta reserve those times to be able to use it so it's effective. If you lead with it, you're not gonna get anywhere. You gotta gain your respect back. But when you need it, you gotta be able to channel it in your own way. Game management. Um, we're gonna talk about it every week. We're gonna talk about everything we do because it's the hardest thing, even for veteran umpires, even with veteran umpires that are good at it, but then there's one coach that just drives them crazy they can't figure them out, right? It's going to be that you're going to see that. and you got to go over the hurdle, and you got to do the best you can and recognize it and be reflective with it. Okay. Example here is you're anticipating a play home plate, home plate based on where the runner speed, batter position. So there's a fast runner at second base. It's a base at the left field. The left fielder is charging in. There's going to be a play. So you get yourself lined up and ready to be able to see that play. Okay. Or manage situation, coaches questioning calls, right? The chirping from the dugout. How do you handle that stuff? Right. Actually saw a good TikTok video today um on what to do, how and like where that stuff comes from, right? Um, I would say a lot of guys I see, with coaches with arguing, chirping about pitches. I would say I would almost say the majority of guys don't don't address it. They just let go, right? And it builds up and builds up and builds up. Depending on the game, it blows up, right? There's a mantra. It's been around for 5 or 6 years now. I would say maybe a little bit longer. It's just a process that you go through, right? It's ignore, acknowledge, warn. Um, I don't like saying this, but restrict, then eject. So a 5-step process in high school. Little comments where that, I mean, honestly, so if it's a coach is just, hey, where was that pitch? I'll give it to him, right? It's a close pitch. I go, hey, I had it up, right? Just turn and go, it was up, okay, and move on, right? But if it gets to the point where it's being consistent, you're like you just ignore it at some point, right? Let it happen and just hope it's a one off. Happens again, then you acknowledge it. You turn, make eye contact is a simple way, right? Or hey, Matt, I heard you. I had that pitch. I had the pitch out of the zone. That's your acknowledgement. Then if it continues again, like you can't get to there, right? You acknowledged it, and then it's quiet for an inning or two, and then it starts up again, right? You don't go back, right? You acknowledge it now. Hey, that's your warning. We're not talking about balls and strikes today, right? That he knows, hey, now he has a warning. I don't. I think there's a place for giving him a warning without restricting him. I know some of the rule book stuff says, and that's kind of working with the rule book without, like, is let him know, like, hey, give him a chance to, hey, wake up, right? You gave him a warning. Now he's not gonna, now, hey, we're not doing this anymore, right? Once you do that, the next one is to restrict. As a caveat, I never restricted a coach that I got. I just don't. For me, it doesn't work, right? Um, but I probably haven't given it. Honestly, I probably haven't given it a chance to work. But I think putting somebody in timeout doesn't do well. And but if it works for you, I wouldn't just poo poo it. I would give it like try it if you get to it at that point. Um, and then so it's like the technical foul in basketball, right? That's the restriction is the technical foul. Once he's there, he can't come out unless you ask him to come out. And then if it happens again, just get rid of him, right? Eject him. And if it's flagrant or if it's personal or profane, just eject him. And don't be afraid to, right? I'm not afraid. Is if you go through like you eject a sophomore coach at Crystal Lake Central, right? And you're gonna text me and say, "Hey, I had an injection." I go, "What happened?" Like, send me the report. That's what I'm looking for because somebody might call me, right, and ask me about it. And if you go through like, "Hey, I did this in the first inning, this second and third inning," like, and went through the steps, what am I going to do, right? That coach calls me, which it didn't happen. It happened once. I got one call last year out of 700 games. I got one call, but it will happen. I can say, "Hey, what you know, you know, Jeff told me, hey, in the first inning, you made a comment about the strike zone. The second inning, he told you where it was and said we're not going to talk about balls and strikes today. Third inning, he gave you a warning. Fourth inning, he restricted the dugout. In the fifth inning, he threw you out of the game. Hey, what is he supposed to do? Right? Because a lot of times coaches go, I didn't know, I didn't get a warning, and that's what they say, right? If you did all those steps and you wrote it down and you have it all the rejection report, like that, most of that coach's boss is going to get that thing the next morning, right? I'm part my my day job is I'm the HR director for a school district, right? And if something happens at a baseball game and one of our coaches is an idiot, they're gonna have to deal with me, right? And I'm not very nice about that stuff, right? Especially being an official. So there's consequences to that. So take your steps, do your things, justify it. I'm never gonna be on you if you do what you're supposed to do in an ejection situation. I'm gonna have your back. Don't do anything I can't defend, right? That's where it is. Like if you do something that's just, the coach makes one little comment the first thing you eject him, it's hard to defend, right? So take your steps, do your things, separate yourself from the situation, like separate your personal, like nobody's ever mad. I'm completely off on a tangent here, but um, when people are mad at you in a situation, I talked to our other administrators in our school district about this too, right? You get irate. The crazy parents that yell at you at the game are the same crazy parents that yell at the principal when their kid gets a detention, right? They're not mad at Alan McCormick umpiring a game, right? They're mad at the situation. They're mad at the umpire back there. They don't know who I am. And if you think they're yelling at your shirts versus yelling at you, it's going to be easier to handle the situations. Don't take things personally, unless they get really personal. But still, then it's just laugh it off, right? Being an HR guy, I'm the most hated person in the world, right? And I have to play that role at at work, and you just do it, right? Make sure you get it done, and make sure you don't get emotional in those situations. Okay. Sorry for the tangent there, but examples of level two. Okay, this is more analytical what you're doing as well. So Um, this is going to be a lot of this stuff is going to be between innings, between pitches, between plays, or even training sessions. Like, why didn't I have a good angle on that play? What caused me to get straight lined on a play at first base, right? First baseman is stretching towards me, and I can't see if he pulled his foot or not. Okay, or I get blocked out over when the batter crosses the plate. Okay, did my positioning help or hurt that call? Did I get to the right spot where I can see that play perfectly, or was I out of position? And did that hurt my call? What can I do differently to get in the right spot on if that play happens again the way it did? Why did the coach think the call was wrong? Right? Everybody here that's umpired more than a year, or probably more than 20 games or more or less, um, has missed a call, thought they got it right, and the entire place burns down. Right? Everybody's up in arms, everybody's screaming and yelling, and you have no idea what's going on. Like that was an easy call, right? It's happened to me a couple times at home plate where player comes to ball, player ball tag all at the same time, right? Catcher lifts the glove up, right? I call him out. He's like, oh, and like, what the hell's going on? Well, the catcher lifted his glove up to show me the ball. But the ball is on the ground. Okay, I can think of two situations where that has happened. I did it to an umpire in high school, so I'm probably paying for it. Um, so that's where the next one was the timing rushed. I don't think on those two plays I gave what a typical call would be, but I didn't. The catcher holds up his glove. I didn't see if he had the ball in it or not. I didn't go look. I didn't keep trying to see the play. I didn't keep taking read steps to see it. Um, but they're like, why did the coach think was it wrong? Right? That's where if you're working a 2-man game, your partner you can have signals to say, hey, I saw some. Mine is always has always been take your hat off, right? If I'm on the bases, it's part of my pregame discussion with my partner. Okay, if you make a call and the world is burning down and you don't know why, look at me. If I have my hat in my hand, okay, I have more information for you. That's where you can get together and help. If you're by yourself, you don't have that luxury, right? That's where your timing and your patience on your calls can make a big difference and can help you through those harder situations, right? Things you can talk with your crew about. What could we have done differently to see that played better, right? Um, that's where the rotation plays, or how we can communicate better. Who could take the play? Um, can I help you on on tag play if there's it's kind of some of the more advanced stuff that you do as a crew. Um, and even like interference and obstruction calls, we're going to have a ton of that, ton of those calls, and a ton of those plays that we're going to watch over the spring. You're going to see them as you watch plays. They don't happen a lot. People don't understand what it is. They don't understand what is legal, what is not, who is a protected fielder, any of that stuff, right? But you and your partner can talk about that stuff and kind of say like play happens. Coach wasn't happy. You talk about it, but like when you talk about it after the game, or if you have a chance between or during the play, okay, who was the protected fielder? Was the contact incidental or um on purpose? Does that matter? Was an intent, does the intent matter? All those things you can talk about, and that's the higher level stuff that you're not doing as the play happens, right? But it's stuff after the play or in between plays or after the game or your post game discussion, or you're talking about before the game. All the different times that you have a chance to talk with your partner, or just thinking about the game and being getting ready to mentally prepare yourself for the game. Okay. It's more deeper mastery, so you're looking at I should say level two, but it sorry, my computer does this stuff now. If I raise my hands, it does. I think this I can do something like this to make balloons. So if you hold your finger up, it reads it, and I apologize. It throws me off a little bit. Um, so it's more of a deep level. I think this slide's out of order. We're just gonna skip it. Okay, level three thoughts. Okay. Um, it's masters of the like mental toughness. Okay, it's how do you survive a game when you don't have your A game? You're gonna have games where you're struggling, right? Um, I had a game where I could not get a call right at first base to save my life. Okay, I probably missed three of them. Um, and it was, it just was it frustrating. And then for me, I needed to recover from that and not let those carry on. And how can I hold it together for that game? Okay, and not let the justified anger from the teams, me missing calls, the fans screaming and yelling, um, handling distractions. Okay, the game when it's raining, right? Like you're soaking wet. The plate is just mud. Nothing you can do to get it to be clean. Your footing isn't good. You're trying to decide if the mound is good enough to keep playing. The home plate is good enough. Do we call somebody out to try to fix it? Are we going to call the game? Are we going to keep playing? All that stuff, and then you still have to be good. You give a no rope. You still have to be just as good as you were if it wasn't raining. Just toning out like toning out the stuff that doesn't matter. If you have a big crowd there and they're screaming and yelling and they're doing everything they're supposed to do, but it's distracting, right? If um you're going through those steps of the eject. You have coaches that are coming out and questioning calls. They're borderline. You're going through your steps with them. Your heart rate gets up, right? And you're worked up, right? The first call after a exchange with a coach is the first pitch to call is the toughest one because you're amped up, right? You got to calm yourself, bring yourself down. The more your heart is racing and those things, it's harder. You can see, they do that with golf pod, broadcast where here's where their heartbeat's at, and then the higher the heartbeat, the better chance they miss a putt or they do something, or just anytime you're amped up, your decisions are going to be skewed, right? Because it's the way we're built, right? We're on alerts to react. You're going to be more reactionary. It's going to be harder to think through situations. Um, there's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that can happen, right? Um you get hit by you a catcher misses the ball and it hits you in the forearm. You can see the seams on your wrist. You're in pain. Um, but you got to keep going, right? They don't care. Like they're not going to give you any grace on now you miss now they throw a pitch right on the knee, right in the corner, and you miss it, right? Because you're thinking about your arm versus thinking about where the pitch is at. They're not going to feel sorry for you, right? Um, so those are it's when you get to level three, you're able to pull yourself back in, right? Be able to channel things and um, ignore things and push those to the side and work a game. Letting your personal life go, like how hard you had a hard day at work, okay? You're driving there and your wife's chewing you out on the phone, right? Your kid, something happens where you're just not meant you're it's mentally busy. It's hard for you, coming into the game and you got to let it all go, right? And focus just on what's going on inside the field. That's why I know um the opinion on this has changed on taking your phone to the field or not. I would never take it to the field. I leave it in the car. Any problems that happen um, between 4:25 and whenever my game ends, right, are still going to be a problem when I get done, right? I know some guys will take it out because it's the safety thing, right? What if you get a crazy parent or crazy coach and you need to call something? Like, I get that, right? But it's a distraction, right? Um, I recommend not taking your phone out with the field, but for some reason you have to, you feel you need to, it should be in your pocket turned off and you're not checking your phone during the game. Try to focus on what's going on. Um, so here is, it talks about this. You have a controversial call, we'll say at home plate, right? And now both sides are amped up. Coach comes out, questions your call, goes back to the dugout. First pitch, now you got to hey refocus. Here we are. Let's call the strike zone. It's hard. It's hard, right? If it was easy, anybody would be able to do it, and there would be we won't have to talk about how to work the plate or handle situations, right? You're gonna get through the game. You're gonna get fatigued as well. Later in the game when it matters the most, you're gonna have physical and mental fatigue at times, especially early in the season when you're not used to working games. Um, you gotta fight through that, right? The more fatigued you are, the you lose focus. You lose the brain. It takes more of your brain to do the simple things, and you're gonna lose some of that stuff. You got to be able to channel that and keep it together, right? Late in the game because that's when it matters the most, right? Okay. Examples of when umpires use it. The higher level thinking is, how will I adjust my positioning next time? Right. I missed a call at home plate. What can I do to see the tag? Right. And in acknowledging you missed it, and like, what can I do to adjust to that? How should I handle a coach in a situation going forward? Right. I know, I know Jim is tough, right? He's going to be intense from the get go. What am I going to do different to get him so he's you know in the he's just doing what we get him to do what we want him to do, or just not be a distract or not be um just inappropriate. Struggling for the word here, but keep him in line during the game so he's not causing a disruption. Um, what preventative communication can I use? Am I do it when I acknowledge? Do I put my hand up, or do I make a slight comment, or do I just make eye contact, letting the coach know you can't do that? Um, how does the game tech context affect a borderline call? Right? There's a lot to that. Like some guys will say, "Hey, he's either safe or he's out. It doesn't matter what the situation," but sometimes it does, right? And what level you're at will will affect that as well. Like that's part of the context, right? If you have a pitch, just the strike zone is going to be different at each level. Um, a pitch, here nipple high pit fastball, um, is a strike at a JV level, strike at a freshman level, depending on and for me at a varsity level, it's probably not. And I'm tighter at the top of the zone than a lot of other people, right? We got to decide, does that matter? But now that same pitch and it's 16-4 in the third inning, okay, it's probably going to be a strike, right? And it's subtle things you can't. I've seen guys get crazy with the strike zone in blowout games, but you try to adjust a little bit. If it's again 16-4 and the team with 16, there's a bang bang play at first. They really could go. It's bang bang play at first. Maybe he's out before he's safe. And but that context, then they don't care anymore. Like it's less chance of blowing up on you. It's not changing your call to get the game over with, but it's like the context matters, right? Is it a freshman game? Is it a varsity game? Is it this second game of a doubleheader and nobody wants to be there? Um, a lot of that stuff, well, you can't go crazy, and you can't, kids, you know, kids three steps past the base and you call them out. You can't do that stuff, but there's little subtle things you can do to adjust there. Um, how you handle, advanced thinking is like, how do you make those decisions on when to address a coach, when to address comments on. I think we talked a little bit last week about the chanting from the dugout and the bench jockeying stuff. Um, how do we draw the line? What on how can we draw the right line at the right time? Like what is acceptable, what's not? How do we address it without looking aggressive towards the dugout? Right? How do we um just be consistent with it? Right? How can we listen to what's going on and make sure it's appropriate, but also focus on the game, right? And not overreact to something. Um, those are all things that are tough, right? Like when do we address something? When do we um when do we not? When is it okay? When is it not? How do we handle it? How do we present that information? How do we talk to a coach? How do we address situation? Those are all things you're going to learn. You're going to see how to do kind of what the norms of the game are. It'll help you get through that. Handling emotional situations, right? Coaches coming out, the coach running from the dugout and coming out to you, like my still to this day, like my stomach drops, right? Like shit, like what am I gonna do, right? How do you use that time from him coming to the dugout, coming to you, and processing that and knowing what to say when the coach, and still listening to the coach and adjusting that. You should say less, right? Um, less like less is more in those situations. Um, the more you talk, the more maybe fuel to the fire you're going to get. If it's a safe out call at second base and the coach is coming to you, he doesn't agree with your call. Nothing that pretty much nothing you say is going to change his mind, right? Your goal is to let him vent a little bit and get him out of there, right? And not look aggressive, not do anything, don't scream and yell, don't get mad. A lot of times you don't have to say hardly anything, right? You should only, if that situation, you should just talk to you shouldn't talk at all, like unless you're asked a question, right? It's like you get pulled over, right? If you pull over by a police officer, right? You just answer his questions. You don't interject anything else into it. Just yes sir, no sir. And at the end, with the coach, we agreed to disagree, right? Is your ultimate thing. He goes back to the dugout, right? On a safe out call and a steal play, right? That if you say you called him safe, the coach thought he was out. What else is there to say besides what to say? You call him safe. I had his hand on the bag before the tag. What else can you say, right? That because that's ultimately what you decided, right? If he doesn't agree with you, like there's no point of just repeating yourself, right? If you let him go, if he asks you, hey, what you have, Said I had his hand on the bag before the tag. Like, what else are you supposed to say? That's all. You don't have to get detailed and you reenact it or anything. Is like I had him on the bag before the tag. And then what is he's going to say? Like, no, he wasn't. Okay. He doesn't ask a question. He walks away. Most of the time, that's it. You're not getting a lot of high school coaches that are. Last year, I was said you're never going to see a, or I would say I don't think I would ever said never, but you're probably not going to see a coach go crazy in a game and just be a hothead. But I witnessed that in my last game last year, so I know they're out there. There's not as many of them as there used to be, but most coaches are pretty cordial. Again, because their principal gets an email when they get ejected from a game, like explaining what happened. That's not a good feeling. Um, so handling your emotions is going to help you. Handling your emotions and other people's emotions during the game is what keeps you alive, and that's what game management really is. Keeping those emotions level, not doing anything to make those emotions worse, right? And push people over the edge. No matter how fun it is to poke and make, you could just, you know, especially if you're married, how you can push buttons and get people worked up and it's funny, right? Or even just joking around with your buddies, trying to get them worked up. It's fun until they're not they're not your buddy, right? Like that's not what you're out there for, and that's not the entertainment. It's what can you do to get them to go away? Your tone, the level of the volume of your voice, those kind of things will help you in those situations. Um, my wife is a there's a program um, in schools, mostly for special ed teachers, but it does go out to other teachers as well. It's called CPI. It's a Crisis Prevention Institute, but ultimately that the majority of that training is verbal de-escalation, right? There's a book called Verbal Judo. We've had some presentations over the years. We had the author of that book come in and talk to us. Um, it, it's ultimately getting it's not it's bringing people down to your level, right? If they come out high, it's easy one to match that intensity level. But if they come out high and now your hands are down, your body language is quiet, you're talking softly, the tendency is that for him, whoever's coming out, is to match your level, right? So if you could master that, again, it's separating yourself out of that situation. You're just trying to, if your goal is to resolve the situation and not win the situation, you're going to be better off. Once you try to win those interactions, and that's when you lose. That's when everybody loses the interactions, right? And that's where it's going to bite you, and it's where it's going to make it not fun, right? It's not fun to be in high. It's not fun to be in situations where you're getting yelled at or you're yelling back at people, and it's intense the whole time, and it's not fun. These games, most of your games are gonna be you quiet and you're gonna have fun with it and joking around and smiling and people are all happy, but it's those harder times where you earn your money doing this. Okay. Applying the rules with consistency and awareness. Some of the stuff we talked about already, but it's it's to know when to be by the book or be with the rule book, right? There's a line there, and you're gonna find that line. The best umpires I've seen are good game managers, and the rules are secondary. Um, Knowing the rules is not going to hurt you, right? But being black and white with the rules is going to hurt you um, in umpiring. So you got to learn where the nuance is there, and you'll do that with experience and seeing situations. Um, so we kind of talked through this stuff already. We'll skip that one. So kind of in conclusion here, right? The theme of this is just like where our mental capacity is and where our decision making is based on our experience and our personal um, interactions with the game of being an umpire, right? Are going to make us who we are as an umpire, make us a better umpire, right? Be aware of these things as you go out. I don't know if this is using these strategies is more about reflection of how your game went or how you had a situation more than is going to prepare you for it. But I think being aware of how our brain works and how our brain makes decisions was going to help you on the field. It's going to help you be a better umpire. Um, there's way more to this. If you wanted to look into it, it's we'll go back to the beginning. It's costs us 3 levels of thinking. Okay. You can do some research on that if you want to look kind of read deeper into it. Some good stuff, and you can apply it to your real life. You can apply it to umpiring. You can apply it to um, how you how you resolve situations with your wife. Like there's a lot, or husband or whatever. Like it's tough. Like it really, like, understanding this stuff is going to make you better. It's going to make you more analytical, talking to coaches during the game, talking to players, and then reflecting on what you do during the game. So, any questions on any of this that we went through? All right, I'm going to be doing this one at the clinic too. So if you see this on the agenda, I'm hopefully make it a little better. You guys are the kind of practicing tonight on this, but this will be a clinic presentation at both clinics. So um, we're going to jump into. I'm going to show you some case plays here. Um, thank you, Chris. I always worry with the, like, you get too deep into this stuff and I lose people, and when I'm just staring at names on the screen, it kind of makes me wonder. But I'm always open to feedback on this stuff. So if you think it's a good topic or not, you can let me know. So we're gonna go through a couple of these plays. Again, when we watch plays here, we're gonna um, go through, watch the play, try to replay it a couple times, and it's kind of, don't be afraid to either put in the chat or unmute your microphone and kind of give your ruling on the play once we get to that point. Um, and we see how we can handle these things. So first one's a batter interference play. Most of these are all ejection plays too. So
swing and a miss, 2-1, throw down, and the runner back safely. Twice they have tried to get the runner out at second, and do we have interference called at the plate? We do.
Yes.
We have interference. Swing and a miss, 2-1, throw down, and the runner back safely. Twice they have tried to get the runner out at second, and do we have interference called at the plate? We do.
Yes.
We have interference called on the batter. Mike Matheny's going to argue, but that is going to retire the side. Let's see what John Bacon saw.
Danny Jansen there.
see if we get a replay on this.
Second base, and Danny Jansen's going to come out. The swing takes him over.
Steps across the plate, and there doesn't have to be contact for.
All right, so that's a question. Is the announcer right on this play? Heard from coaches 100 times, okay, that there's no contact. Okay, does the batter interfere? Okay, I guess first, what is the rule on this? What is the rule on batter interference? Who's brave enough to unmute your microphone? There's nobody's approved. All right, so the rule on batter interference, like, the batter cannot do any illegal acts. Maybe I couldn't paraphrase here because I'm not. I don't know. The rule. Jen probably can help me if she's still here. The batter can't do anything, an illegal act, to interfere with the catcher's ability to retire a runner, right? Nothing in the rule talks about contact. Okay, so the contact doesn't matter, right? So what does the batter do here? So first, want to put in the chat room, do you have interference or no, or is this nothing? If you have a game where this exact play happens, runner on second, the catcher tries to pick him off, Do we have interference or we have nothing? Okay,
So guys, this would be a lot cleaner if we would just unmute the mics and talk. Okay? Putting it in the chat is good, but let's start some dialogue here.
It's
Right.
interference. The batter crosses home plate. He interferes with the throw. If there was less than 2 outs, I believe we would return the runner to first and the batter would be out. But I could be wrong on that one.
That's Mike Warren, everybody. Give it up. Good job, Mike.
Thanks.
Yep. So that's that ruling. The only thing would be different is we had a runner on second to start. So the runners return where they were time of pitch. So on this one, the runner
Yes.
would just stay at second and we call the batter out.
Yes.
So yeah. Typically you'll see batter interference most of the time on the steal play. Like on a runner steal second. So that's that's what Mike was saying. So let's watch it one more time. Now let's watch I want to watch the coach interaction with the umpire.
Are you gonna share your screen, Alan?
I am sharing my screen.
I see it.
Swing and a miss, 2-1.
So watch the interaction between the coach and the umpire.
Twice they have tried to get the runner out at second. And do we have interference called at the plate? We do.
Yes.
We have interference called on the batter. Mike Matheny's going to argue, but that is going to retire the side. Let's see what John Bacon saw.
Do we get little bits of this?
They had a pickoff play on at second base, and Danny Jansen's going to come out. The swing takes him over.
Steps across the plate, and there doesn't have to be contact for interference to be called.
Oh. Okay, let's go again. Come on. One second.
Hey, Alan,
What's up?
can you go back to the part where they were talking?
Yeah.
And
Going to miss, 2-1, throw down, and the runner back safely.
What was that, Tim? Sorry.
so can you go back to where I know where you want to discuss the interference part, but I also want to discuss a scene where the coach and the umpire were talking.
Yep, that's what we're going for right now.
Twice they
If you want, I
have-
could run with this.
It'll come up here in a second.
It's called at the plate.
Yes.
We have interference called on the batter.
A little further.
So I'm going to point something out here, though. So in this situation, you have the coach coming out, right? You can see the umpire is talking before the coach gets there, right? So he's trying to defend his call. He probably knows what argument's coming, right? But let him go, right? Don't get defensive on it. Maybe he saw something else, or maybe he's going to complain about something else. Let him get a chance to go through and then ask a question.
The thing is going to argue, but that is going to retire the side.
I think is this what you talk about, Tim?
Yeah. So handling situations with umpires, there's a couple things in this picture right here that we as officials at our level can correct. This guy's obviously major league umpire. He's made his way through. But what we need to do differently there's a couple things here. Okay. Obviously, we have an escalated situation. The coach is coming out. He's trying to argue for the call. First off, the right hand. What is everybody going to see when they pull their cameras out and the phones and take pictures, right? Who's the aggressor in this picture, right? So we want to try to keep our hands down to our side. Couple things you could do with that. You could put your mask under your arm, holding that with your hand, and so on and so forth. One of the tricks that I use to keep my hands is I'll put my palm facing out in my back pocket, so that way I don't feel that I need to raise my arm, point, or anything like that. Another thing that you want to do is before the coach comes out and as he's coming out, collect your thoughts and get your sunglasses off your face so that way you could look at him in the eye. Okay. Those are a couple things right then and there that you could do to just kind of like bring the temperature down in the room. Because this isn't a good look when we're pausing it and looking at it. And if somebody snaps a picture and sends this to the assigner after you eject this guy, that's not going to be a good defendable thing for the assigner when you have to report the ejection. So, Al, Jeff, Linforth, Scott, Chocolate, do you guys have any comments on this?
But so when you're having an interaction with a coach, right? You see how they're face to face, right? They're nose to nose. That's a confrontational stance, right? When you talk to people, right? When you're talking in a group, okay, and having a conversation with somebody, you're going to be more shoulder to shoulder, right? You're going to be at an angle. Hey, you have a coach come out and they're mad or they're hot. If you try to get in a spot where you're not directly nose to nose with them and you can kind of dance with them a little bit, but you kind of turn your shoulder and open up a little bit, it's going to be more conversational than confrontational, right? It's not going to always work, but there's little body language things. Like Tim said, like he's got his shoulders up, he's got his hand out, right? He's trying to defend his call to this coach instead of trying to calm the situation down or handle the situation. It could turn into an ejection anyway, right? But nothing you do in that situation should escalate it to that point. If the coach decides he's going to get ejected, then he's going to get ejected, right? But there's little nuanced things that you can do, and you can see that just from like when you have 5 guys standing around talking, right? What happens? Okay, you end up in a circle, right? Because you're shoulder, 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 and you end up in a circle, right? That's how conversations happen. Being nose to nose is uncomfortable when you're talking to somebody. So
What do I want to do with the batter?
let's see what
Right,
else.
the guy, he's just on my right shoulder right there. He's on the guy's right shoulder.
And like again, don't try to win that situation, right? It's fine. He doesn't have to be happy. He doesn't have to like your call. He doesn't have to be your friend. So just don't try to win it. And this is a different level. This is pro ball. At least major league ball is difference, right? It's difference for us. Like we can't have a heated conversation like that. It's not acceptable at our level at amateur baseball. So got to be able to. Your job is to diffuse, and if it crosses the line, then you eject somebody, or go through your steps. Wayne, did you have something?
Yeah, my question, if you go back a little bit. I'll get the
Can you're hard to hear right now, Wayne.
Yeah, the batter was standing right next to the umpire too. What can you do there? I mean, if the batter starts chirping at you while the coach is chirping at you.
Yeah, so that's a good question. So if you're working with a partner, that's your partner's job, right? To swoop in and make sure it's a one-on-one conversation, right? If you're by yourself, okay, you can say like ignore it if he's not interacting with you, right? If the batter's not saying anything or not joining the conversation, when you're by yourself, your bigger fish to fry is trying to deal with the coach. If you're by yourself, and then you say an assistant coach comes in and 2-on-2 conversation, it happens sometimes quickly. I'll say say to the first base coach is there as you're talking to the head coach, first base coach is there. Go, hey, you need to go to the dugout. I'm talking to your head coach. I'm not talking to you. Like stop the interaction. Go, hey, you need to go to the dugout, and then start over. If he doesn't, give him a warning, eject him. There's no that's actually a rule that if an assistant coach leaves their position to argue a call, which he is doing, if he does do that, right, that's an automatic restriction, or an ejection. Okay, and if you and that gets the head coach restricted to the dugout. So there's a severe penalty for that. So address that and get him out. Again, if you have a partner, that your partner should be down there and getting that guy out on your own. If you're by yourself, deal with it. Stop with the head coach and hey, you need to go to the dugout, right? And don't then just change your focus to there and get him out, and then go back to the head coach. Players, if a player gets interact, like that's your stern. Hey, go to the dugout and get out of there. But yeah, these conversations all should be one-on-one. Good question. Okay, good. We'll go to the next play. This one's hard to see initially. Okay, so we're gonna let the video play and then it will show a better angle on it. Is this an obstruction or an interference call? Interaction with R2 in the shortstop.
And a mess.
One with the bullpen for the fill. Broken back. Base hit it.
Okay, we'll get a better look at this in a second here. Same umpire too, by the way. Let's see. Here we go. So R2 is shortstop. Okay, we got contact, so it's gotta be something. All right, so we got two calls we got to make on this play. We got two decisions we got to make. Is this contact, obstruction, interference, or nothing? And is R2 safe or out at home plate, and why? Okay, it's going to jump in right here.
And a mess.
I have runner's interference.
Okay, we got interference on the runner.
I'm going, it's obstruction because the ball's already past the infielder when the collision occurs. But he's out at home because you can only give him one base on the play. So you can have him safe to third. But when he starts to come home, you don't have him safe anymore.
Okay,
No.
hold that thought on the second part. So first, what you just said, right, explains like what we have to decide, right? So ultimately, if we're like, I think we can all agree either side of it. If we're going to protect a fielder on this play for interference, it would be the shortstop. The shortstop's got the best chance of making this play, correct? Like everybody's going to agree with that. Now, does this shortstop have a play on that ball, right? Or does he have a chance to field that or not? That's the next thing we got to decide. Okay, let's get another look at it in looking in that realm. Like, does he have a chance to field that ball if that contact doesn't happen? So if the answer is yes, he did, that call is interference on the runner. Okay. If that answer is no, he didn't have a chance to field it, now you have obstruction. Okay. Obstruction in a high school game is a delayed dead ball, right? So we let it go. So if we have interference, it's time, it's interference, that runner is out, everybody goes back unless you're forced to advance. So no runs would score. We'd end up with bases loaded and two. I forget if we were 1 or 2 outs or 0-1 outs at the beginning. We'd add an out to the number of outs and no run score. We still have bases loaded. If we think he did not have a chance to field that ball, now we have obstruction, right? We acknowledge the obstruction. It's like, hey, that's obstruction. We point at it. We let the play out. I forget. I don't know who was. I'm sorry, I didn't see who was unmuted when they were talking, but the award for obstruction is minimum of one base, right? So this runner it was going to get third base, right? No matter what. But we can award them more if we thought so you award them, you're trying to nullify the obstruction by the award, right? It has to be one base, but you can nullify the obstruction. So now we got to decide that runner coming home, if he was not obstructed, would he have scored on this play? So we can go back, watch just for that part of it. Would he have scored if he was not obstructed? Okay. With that, so now what the runner does after that contact and how much effort he puts into trying to score, all have a part in this. How much he was slowed down, all that comes into play. But it's your judgment. Does he score or not? Would he have scored or not?
I don't think so.
Yeah, because he's probably 30 feet from home plate when that ball is caught. Did that slow him up by 30 feet? If you think yes, okay, then when this tag happens, you call time, point at the runner, you score. Okay, that was obstruction, you score, you're safe. If not, you just call them out. And then but now you're gonna have a coach in your face, right? So, well, either way, if you call somebody safe on this play, you're gonna have somebody asking you questions about it. Okay, you might not have a hot coach or a coach screaming and yelling, but you're gonna have a question about it. I almost guarantee that. They're gonna see that. They're gonna see that interaction. They're not gonna know what it is, but whoever the call goes against, they're gonna ask you about it. If you call him out here, the offensive coach is gonna come to you and ask you questions. So I know somebody said you're gonna have an out. The person said, hey, I'm gonna call him out because he wouldn't have scored. What is your explanation to the coach? What do you say to him when he comes out to you?
That was me, Wayne.
Okay.
And I'm saying that even without that obstruction, your runner would have been out trying to advance to home on that play.
But Wayne, that's my fastest runner. He scores on that play every time. How does it stop him from scoring?
I didn't see him fall. I didn't see him break his stride. I believe, being that he was out by 30 feet as it was, I don't believe that obstruction cost him 30 feet and running.
Okay. All right. So now I would wait on that. I would just give him a little less detail, right? Don't give him the 30 feet comment. Don't do that kind of stuff. It's like I saw obstruction. I called the obstruction, or my partner called the obstruction. But I believe if he wasn't obstructed, he would have been out at home plate based on what happened. And that's it. Like if you give them the specifics like that, they're gonna be that wasn't 30 feet. It was only 15 feet. Right? And in the end, does that matter? No, but it gives them an opening to go in a different direction and try to change your mind. So it was good. Like what your thought process and everything was good. Just a little less detail, and don't give them enough to, like cop said, hey, how fast were you going? Right? Like that. The only answer to that is I don't know, because you're gonna give them a too high of a number, and then you're gonna be in trouble, right? So
Because you could have one argument, but if you give them and say 30 feet, this guy could say he was 16, you're going to open up for another argument. So
yeah,
now
right.
you have two arguments out there.
Yeah, but you're just prolonging it, right? So just tell them the fact. Like I don't. In my judgment, he wouldn't have scored even with the obstruction.
I mean, at that time, you just grab your plate brush, start brushing out the plate, correct?
No, I wouldn't do that. Don't.
No.
No, if he's talking to you, right? you let that interaction stop and move on. If you walk away and start, brushing the plate or doing something else, it's a sign of disrespect, right? Even if you don't mean it that way,
All right. Yeah.
it's like you give the coach the time, right? If he's being
Okay.
unprofessional, you can shorten it up and cut him off. But if he's just talking to you, asking questions, it's okay, right? It's an acceptable part of the game.
All right.
But yeah, if you
Makes
walk away and
sense.
do that, like that's just the bad body language, and it's gonna, even though if you don't mean to be disrespectful, it could be taken that way, and it could look that
Yeah.
way from everybody else.
Okay.
So now on the other side of this, right? You think this runner's gonna you're gonna score this run, and you do score this run. You have a coach, you have the defensive coach come out. How are you gonna explain this to the coach? If somebody else wants to unmute and do that. All right, Jeff Linforth, how would you explain that to the coach?
I'm eating my dinner, Alan. All right, defensive coach comes out. I'm going to tell him, Tom, the ball was past your fielder, so I do not have interference on this runner right there.
Okay, so
And
what I guess what the coach says, how does he score there? He was he was 30 feet down the line when. How can you
I'm
score
not,
that run? He would have been out anyway.
yeah, I think if I would in real time, if I'm able to call that obstruction appropriately,
Yep, yeah,
and
you called the obstruction and
Mhm.
you score the run even though the tag is before
Well,
the touchdown play.
this runner is out by, in my judgment, this runner would have not scored had there
Yep.
been no interference. I'm calling this runner out. He's out by quite a bit, and he was not obstructed to the point where I'm going to give him 15 or a good portion. Like we just said, don't give him the exact distance, but I say, in my judgment, this runner would have still been out had there been no interference or no obstruction.
Okay. Yeah, so we're trying to get to the other side of it. So if you say you think on this play he scores and you score the run.
Okay,
But
if let's say it's very close and
yep.
he's out by 3 feet. Now I'm going to say, Tom, by the basic rules of obstruction, I'm going to protect that runner to the base where I feel that he would have achieved had there been no obstruction. And I'm going to protect him all the way to home plate on that play.
Okay.
It's somewhat of a definition. You're giving the coach a definition, and you're giving it to him respectfully after he has vented. Let him vent.
Yeah,
And
so like all these explanations when any of these situation is it's after the coach said, "Hey, what did you have there?" You're going to get that or what do you got? Like
Can
you're
I
going to
ask a
get those.
question?
Yep, those are the questions. Yeah.
This is Mike Warren.
Yep, go ahead.
In essence, then there's no penalty for there's no penalty. I mean, I think the third base coach sent him home because he had to send him home. There would be no penalty for the obstruction if, because obstruction occurred. And
Yeah.
it was bases. I think it was bases loaded. So he was forced. He would have been a third uh, on a clean single for sure. So there's no penalty if I don't know the rules as well as you guys do, but
Yep.
I guess my point is there would be no penalty for the obstruction, which did occur. So that's why I think they score the run. But I'm open to be,
So yeah,
instructed
so the
better.
rule, all right, the rule is that you award the runner the base or protect him to a base
protect him to the base that
that
you
he would have
feel
got
that
to if the obstruction didn't happen.
he would have obtained had there been no obstruction.
Yeah.
So in this situation, say that there's a man on second base only, because this runner is not being forced home. I don't know what.
Correct. I
Let's say
agree.
that, let's say we've got a man on second base only. And that third base coach sees properly the obstruction, and he's aggressive, and he waves this guy home, and he's out by 25 feet. Well, that third base coach should have known he's taking a chance right there, because I'm not going to protect that runner all the way to home plate based on a quick stutter step that this runner had to do when the shortstop was laying in front of him.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. I'm just.
Now
I'm
let's say
clarification.
let's say we have the exact same play. Runner on, forget the kid on third. Runner on second base, and the shortstop dives and really knocks this kid down at second. He gets himself up and he's out by 15, 20 feet. Now you're going to say, when the coach comes out, you're going to let him vent, and you're going to say, Tom, I'm going to protect that runner to the base that I feel that he would have obtained had there been no obstruction. You're going to cite the rule.
Got it.
Yes, ultimately, like there's no obvious penalty, right? Because
What's this one, Alan? Show this one. This now you got a kid.
yeah, so
It's like,
yeah. Hold on, let's wrap this one up first. The previous one. Ultimately, the penalty is like he was awarded third base, right? If he fell down and got thrown out at third base, like by the center fielder somehow and couldn't get there, you would award him third. He would get third base. He'd be there. But because he went past the base he was protected to, now he's at peril of being called out. There's a play in the World Series. There's actually a couple of these plays, but there's one with Miguel Tejada back in the 90s or early 2000s where it was the same thing. He got obstructed between second and third, and then he stopped running, right? Like he rounded third and just started walking and throwing his hands up in the air, and he got tagged out. And that was a big deal. You probably can. It's probably on YouTube somewhere. But it's the same type of play as what this is. But they went the other way. They called him out. This one, they ended up calling him safe, but they thought there was enough contact there that they would have awarded him home. So it's ultimately a judgment call on where you think you would be, and speed of the runner, where the ball goes to the outfield, all that stuff all comes into play on it. Okay, this one, same thing. There's contacts. I think that's with either shortstop or the third baseman on this play. So his contact is early here. That's just the intro. All right. First, what do we got on this play? What are you calling?
Interference on the runner.
Okay. And if you have interference on a runner, who's out and where do the runners go? The other runners go.
It would be the runner will be out. I mean the runner two will be out, and then is there a guy on first? Yeah, he goes back, correct?
Yeah, so yeah, we have first and second.
Okay.
They less than 2 outs. Can't see how many. So yeah,
Right.
so interference. So if you have interference, it's time. Like right away, it's time, right? Ball is dead, nothing else can happen. The runner that interfered is out, everybody else advances one base, right? Whose call is this on this specific play? Like who's gonna make this call? Who should make this call when this contact happens?
Well, the umpire at second base is staring right at the play.
Right.
Well, I would say he gets the call because he's looking right at it.
Is he? Let's watch
Well,
it.
he's on one knee right there.
Let's watch
If
it again.
if he's quick enough to turn around and see a one hopper to the third base to the
Well,
short.
watch when this contact happens.
The home plate umpire is the one that's going to see it clearly. He's got to make the call on the initial interference. And then he's probably going to make a judgment call on whether or not they would have been out at first to get the double play, because the runner that interferes is automatically out. And if he thinks that he would make the play and throw the runner out at first base, he's got a double play.
How about the force out at second?
All right. So, what is the rule citation that supports that, Mike?
You know, I was just looking for my rule book, and I need to have my rule more.
All right, we'll give you a second there.
Citation.
So on this call, right?
Interference kill the play.
So
Interference plays dead.
when can we get a double play? Like, is there a situation where we can? Is this situation one of them we can get a double play on? But
This is intentional interference to break up a double play. And so you're going to get R2 out and the batter runner out, return R1 back to first base.
Okay. So yeah, so if you judge this as intentional interference, right, is the only time that you can get a double play on it. If you think they just ran into each other because they're teenagers and they're stupid, okay, then it's just the runner out, kill it and push the runners. Advance if they have to be advanced. So this by the mechanics manual, okay, and anything you read will tell you that this is the base umpire's call, right? Real life though, right? Can you see behind you, right? Would there be any reason that the second base, the base umpire in a two-man system is looking at the interaction between the shortstop and R2, right? When the ball is still in front of him, when that contact happens, you're not. Like, this is a hey, you got to recognize the situation. Like, this is the deeper level 3 stuff, right? Where that's not my call, but my partner can't see that. I got to help him, right? Then you as the plate umpire would go up and get this call, right? Because you're the only one that has a look at it. Okay, there's probably some note somewhere in some mechanics manual that talks about this specific play, but the IHSA PowerPoint does not talk about this. So, but this is one that you gotta see. Like, you gotta be like, hey, that's my partner can't see that. That's me. But it might be. So, but if you don't recognize that right away, right, and that can happen, right? I don't see it right away. I'm not gonna be able to do that. It's not my call. You know, it's too advanced, or you just don't think about it. When the world blows up on this, which I assume that happens in this video after this video happens, right? That's where, hey, take my hat off, holding it. You can get together with your partner and get that call right. So minimum 1 out. At minimum, the R2 is out. If you judge it as intentional interference, and then R1 is out, or batter runner's out, R2's out, and then batter. Jen, help me on this. Batter, get confused.
Sorry, R2 is out, batter runner is out.
Batter runner's out. Yes.
R1's return to first.
Yeah.
Time of pitch.
For those don't know, Jen, are you done? Are you still down in Florida, or are you done?
I'm on my way home. Just finished up on Wednesday.
Jen just went through umpire school this last 5 weeks or 4 weeks?
4.5 weeks.
4.5 weeks.
6 days a week.
Yep. So she went through umpire boot camp for 4.5 weeks. So she probably knows the rules better now than she ever will in her life. So
that is absolutely true.
It's been hammered in. So that's a big accomplishment. That's going to help her in her career forever. Can't take that away from her. So
absolutely.
Glad you were able to do that. I'm jealous. So
thanks.
All right. So again, we're going to end on this play because this is one that kind of fits the topics we're talking tonight about. By the mechanics, like, this is not the plate umpire's call, but in real life that is, and that's something where you can where you got to recognize those things and and just to be able to get the calls right. All right, so that's all I have for this week. Again, if you're coming to the clinics, try to register for that. There's plenty of games on the website. Slowly trickling in. There's more games added every day. So if you haven't been out there a while, there's more games you can fill in your schedule with. So if you have any questions, reach out. But otherwise, we'll see you next week.
All right, thanks, Alan.